So I first started fish keeping over 30 years ago, and one of the first fish I had in my collection was the humble guppy. And barely a day has gone by since that first aquarium where I haven't had guppies in at least one of my fish tanks. To my mind, they are one of the best starter fish in the hobby. Recently, one of my subscribers contacted me and said, "Why are guppies always recommended for beginners? They're hard to keep, they just die." He said, "Are guppies hard to keep?" And I said, "No, not providing you set up the environment correctly for them in the first place." And in this video, I thought we'd discuss what is the perfect setup for a guppy. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Richard and I've been keeping fish for over 30 years. So what is the perfect setup for a guppy fish? Well, let's start with the tank itself. While size really doesn't matter, the larger fish tank we keep our fish in, the better they will do. It's easier to keep 5,000 gallons of water stable than it is to keep 5 gallons of water stable. So while size of the tank doesn't matter, do bear in mind, the larger the volume of water, the less work, the less effort you're going to have to put in to keep that water suitable for your fish. I keep guppies in this small vase here. I keep them in this tank. I've got a 7 gallon up the top. I've got a 155 next door with guppies in. The guppies themselves don't really care how large the tank is, providing the water is kept clean and stable. Now, guppies are what we call a tropical fish. They like to be kept in warm water, which means you will either need to heat the tank itself or you'll need to keep the room at a stable temperature so that the water in that tank remains somewhere between 72 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 22 to 27 degrees Celsius. Most guppies can tolerate water slightly either side of that, slightly cooler and slightly warmer. For them to be at their best, they really want to be in the mid-70s. Now, I do keep some guppies in these unheated vases, but that's because I know the room I keep them in remains at more or less a constant stable temperature, which means the temperature of the water barely fluctuates. So once we've sorted out water temperature, we next need to talk about filtration. And there are many different filters on the market, and essentially your guppies don't care what type of filter they have. So why do we even need to filter our guppy tank water? Well, when our guppies go to the bathroom, their waste is high in ammonia, and ammonia is highly toxic to fish. If your guppies are living in water that has even small amounts of ammonia, they will quickly become sick and die. Now, fortunately, there's a naturally occurring strain of bacteria that converts the ammonia to the slightly less toxic nitrite. Now, guppies and other fish can tolerate slightly higher levels of nitrite than they can of ammonia, but even so, if those nitrite levels rise too high, the guppies will become sick. Now here we're fortunate again, because there is yet another strain of bacteria living in our fish tanks that convert that nitrite to the less toxic nitrate. And nitrates are less toxic. Guppies and other fish can tolerate higher levels of nitrates than they can nitrites or ammonia. But even so, the amount of nitrate needs to be kept low. And we do that through growing live plants, which absorb nitrates as they grow, and or by carrying out regular partial water changes, where we perhaps drain down 20% of our water and refill it with fresh tap water, which will be low or has no nitrates in it whatsoever. Now, essentially, whether you're using an under gravel filter, a sponge filter, a hang-on-back filter, it doesn't matter to the guppies. Filters have two jobs to do. One, physically remove particles of waste from the water, and two, provide a home for those beneficial bacteria to grow and break down the ammonia and the nitrite and create the nitrates. Which filter you use, the guppies don't care at all. It makes no difference to them. Now, as I mentioned there, live aquarium plants, as they grow, they absorb ammonia and nitrites and particularly nitrates out of the water. So growing live aquarium plants in with your guppies not only makes your tanks look brighter, more colourful, and you could say more natural, but also helps keep the water cleaner and healthier for the guppies themselves. Now, guppies, they do like a bit of decoration in their aquariums, whether that be rocks or pieces of wood or SpongeBob castles, they don't care. Adding decorations is not essential to your guppy's well-being, but it does make the tank more interesting for them. It does mean any fish that is being bullied has somewhere to hide. It does mean if the females are being harassed by the males, they can get out of sight, they can duck behind a plant, into the rocks, under the castle, wherever it might be. So whilst decorations aren't essential for your guppies' health and well-being, they do provide a more pleasant environment for us to enjoy and provide some shelter and hiding places for your guppies. Now, guppies are what we call community fish. They will happily live in an aquarium with other fish that desire similar conditions. So whether that's platies or mollies, or it could be neon tetras or cardinal tetras, there are literally hundreds of different fish that will happily live in an aquarium with guppies. Now, there are probably equally as many fish as you'd want to avoid. You wouldn't necessarily want to keep large South American cichlids like Oscars, because they'll eat your guppies. You wouldn't want to necessarily keep some of the larger catfish, or even some of the smaller catfish like Pictus catfish, which will eat your guppies. Providing you stick with tank mates that are of a similar size and require a similar diet and like similar water conditions, then there are a countless number of different tank mates you can keep with your guppies. Now, when it comes to feeding your guppies, guppies are what we call omnivores, which means, well, it means they'll pretty much eat anything. But it really means they want to eat foods which have some meat content and some vegetable content, which fortunately means we can feed them pretty much any good quality fish food that's available on the market today. We can feed them flake foods, we can feed them pellet food, we can feed them live or frozen food, we can feed gel foods like rapashi. Pretty much any good quality food that your local fish store sells will be absolutely fine for guppies. What guppies really need is variety. So whilst they will eat flake food, personally, I wouldn't give them flake food day after day after day after day. One day I'll give them flake food, another day it'll be mini pellets. The third day it might be live or frozen bloodworm. Then perhaps back to the pellets or the flake. By giving our guppies variety, we provide all of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that they require to grow big and strong and be healthy and colourful, and particularly the males to develop those flamboyant tails. Having the variety also helps the females, who are pretty much pregnant their entire lives and are baby producing machines. Now, on the subject of guppy babies, guppies are live bearers, and that means the females give birth to live, free swimming baby guppies. Guppies are very prolific breeders. In fact, the males are constantly on the lookout for females to mate with, and the females spend almost their entire lives pregnant, carrying babies. An individual female guppy can easily give birth to between 20 and 50 babies, and she may do that every 30 or 40 days, which means over the course of a year, a single pair of guppies can easily become 200 to 500 individuals if every baby survives and we don't intervene. Now, fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, baby guppies appear to be very tasty, which means not all of the babies do survive. Some baby guppies will be eaten. Some will be eaten by the guppies themselves, others by the tank mates that live in the aquarium. Depending on your point of view, that is something which either fills you with horror and you feel every baby guppy should be saved, or you kind of understand that helps keep a natural balance, and whilst these aquariums aren't exactly a slice of nature, it is how it would happen in the wild. In one of my most recent videos, I actually discussed 9 ways in which you can keep your guppy population under control, and you can watch that video next. Thanks for watching.